Hey everyone, just want to encourage you to find us on your listening platform and give us a rating. Anywhere you listen to that has a rating system, go on over and give us a rating and maybe leave us a review. Let us know your thoughts. These ratings really do help. Thank you so much for listening. On to this week's episode. Guys, I have a question for you. Would you take the Pink Ladies Pledge?
Oh, I don't even know what the Pink Ladies Pledge is.
The Pink Ladies Pledge is to act cool, to look cool, and to be cool. Till death do you part, think pink.
I don't need to take that pledge because that's just how I live my life.
I would take that pledge. I mean, whether or not I embody it or not, I just think it's probably the best pledge you could ever take. But except for the think pink part. So I could relate to a character in the anti-pink stance.
What do you have against pink? I'm just curious. Because that's like a heteronormative, like...
I don't like pink and I don't like purple because I don't like a shade of purple like that. Like those are colors that not speak to me. And I don't actually like blue.
But is it okay, fine. So you don't like either the female or the masculine. But do you not like the pink though because of its associations to girly stuff?
No, I like warm colors and I find blue, pink, purple to just not be the kind of colors I like.
Interesting, because isn't pink a warm color? If it falls into the red spectrum.
Yeah, it's just not. I don't know. It's like purple, and I don't like purple. And if purple's a warm color, it's just the one warm color I don't like. So.
No, I think purple is a cool color for sure.
Okay, it's like a mix of.
Falls into cool.
Yeah, it's like pink is somewhere between red and purple, and they're just like not for me. Mm-hmm. So yeah. Okay. But
why are we talking so much about the color pink? What's going on?
Because we're talking about the Pink Ladies today, and we're talking about the new Grease revival sort of thing going on. It's not a reboot. It's kind of a prequel.
Yeah. It is a prequel.
But it fits into our category, so we're going to cover it. I'm Nicole.
And I'm Rolando.
And Eddie. Z.
And this is Remakes, Reboots, and Revivals.
An original podcast
about
unoriginality. So we're going to start off today's episode with some news, like we sometimes do. As of late. And I've literally been informed about this 30 seconds ago. So Eddie Z, please enlighten us all about the news.
So rumor has it that Twilight is getting a TV reboot right on the heels of the Harry Potter show announcement.
That's so like Twilight to like.
It is so like Twilight.
Really capitalize
Harry Potter, yeah.
The popularity Harry Potter's views, you know.
When I was pitched Twilight, they're like, "Oh, you like Harry Potter? Read Twilight." Worst pitch ever. But I feel like a lot of people got into Twilight because they needed something like Harry Potter to kind of binge. And it's just crazy how Harry Potter announces and Twilight does. It's like always stealing Harry Potter's thunder. I swear.
I don't know if was it like Harry Potter like ending when Twilight began?
Yeah, that's why it became so popular because I
suppose. I mean, it's also different.
It's funny that both franchises have Robert Pattinson in it.
That's true. Both Pattinson. Yeah, they do have Robert Pattinson in them. Yeah, no, I think a Twilight reboot would make sense because I think the problem with Twilight as a whole is, and this comes from the source material, but that relationship moves so fast that it just feels like such a fantasy. Where I feel like if you do it as a series, it more so becomes like True Blood, right? Where you see the ups and downs of a relationship in more so of a less compact time. So I think there's pros and cons. Now, is there like a network attached to it, or is it just like people?
No, it's like, early stage. Lion Gate's involved, but no network.
Interesting.
So
I'm curious.
Who announced it?
Probably Stephanie Meyer.
Stephanie Meyer, Lionsgate.
No, I was messing around. I don't know who announced it. It's probably just like those leaked things that like show up in like the news and stuff, most likely, unless you have a source, Eddie.
It's the Hollywood Reporter.
Oh, the Hollywood. That's a legit source though. So
yeah. Okay, interesting. I mean, if we cover it, which we probably will, I would hope that they actually do a lot different because I don't know if I want to see the exact same thing. I never kind of do.
Yeah.
And I would hope that they fix the kind of a lot of the errors that I personally found in the first Twilight. So I hope they make it to me. Is what I'm saying.
Wait, do you want the exact same thing for Harry Potter too? Or
no. We were saying last week, like change up the casting.
Yeah, change up the casting. Give me like Shangela as McGonagall.
Yes, exactly. So I don't know. I mean, like explore some areas that maybe were hinted at in the books and we didn't get in the movies. So I don't know. Just change it up. Experiment.
And you know what? Change up everything. Like make Harry Potter end up with Hermione, like everyone wanted.
Ooh, right? That totally will not piss everyone off.
And what? No, I feel like more people wanted them to end up together.
Yeah, it feels really odd that she did end up with Ron. But I was also kind of like, so why does everyone have to be paired off?
That's true. I mean, Ron, maybe he'll end up with Draco.
Ooh, yeah. I don't know.
Guy? Who's
J.K.
the other
Rowling's
one?
not that woke. The only way a J.K. Rowling character could be homosexual is if they're dead and it was in their past.
There was that gay couple throughout the entire film series in the background.
In the background?
Yeah, there was like the kid who went on to be in How to Get Away with Murder, and another white kid. No.
Oh, Seamus and Dean Thomas.
Yeah, like they like a couple throughout the entirety.
That's fan fiction, but you know,
they were dancing in the ball.
Let's make it in this new one. Let's say Seamus and Dean were in love. So they just couldn't publicly say it because people, would homo shame them. So
I feel like Dean's too cool for Seamus, though. Like Dean's really cool. Like that was the thing about him in the books. He was like super cool.
Yeah. And he got Ginny, which is also Harry Potter and Ginny Weasley, worst coupling ever. So we started with Twilight. Obviously, we're back on Harry Potter.
Okay.
It all
every
goes
day,
back.
It all comes
every
back
day
to
of my
Harry
life, Harry Potter. I always.
But we're talking about if you're going to do something or you're going to revisit something, why not do something new? Why not experiment? And that's exactly what we're going to be talking about today. We're going to be talking about this brand new Paramount Plus television show called Grease: Rise of the Pink Ladies. Which honestly I haven't heard too much about. Have you heard like a lot of like feedback or read any reviews?
No, but
yeah, it's kind of been really mute on my end.
It has been a little quiet, so God only knows what our numbers are going to be like.
Yeah, people are dying to listen to this one. Yeah,
I know. Well, maybe no one's talked about it, and like the few fans that this show probably has are just like, finally, someone is talking about what I want to talk about.
Yeah, maybe. Well, so Grease as a film came out in 1978, and it was a huge hit. It's kind of become...
I can't believe it's 1978 when this movie came out.
I know. It's pretty crazy. More than 40 years. This movie is an American treasure movie, right? It's like everyone knows of it. Wow. They probably have seen it, but if they haven't, it's like they've seen it because it's so embedded in pop culture. Everybody kind of is like aware of the songs. Not saying everyone knows the lyrics or something. Like, it's a very familiar thing in terms of pop culture, and they re-release it a lot. They re-released it like last year. They play it on TV. They did like the live thing. Like it got a sequel, which I think is better than the original on some days of the week.
You know who would agree with you? My friend Amanda. She loves Grease 2 more than Grease. I have never seen Grease 2, but I've heard it's awful.
Yeah, so it is like in its own world, and it's a very unique movie, but I personally love it. To quote Millie DiCirico, the film programmer at TCM, she says people who like Grease 2 are cooler, funnier, and more attractive. And I'm just going to take her word on that.
Okay. Yeah.
But yeah, I personally think Grease 2 is great. But like Grease, again, like Grease is a movie that everyone's kind of seen a production or heard of a production happening in high school. Mm-hmm. Like you kind of roll your eyes when people pick Summer Nights or Hopelessly Devoted to You at karaoke night. Like it's just kind of
I feel like
everywhere.
That's a dig at me because I always pick Summer Nights with Eddie.
Do you?
Yeah, I usually, that is one of our duet songs. But we do it ironically. We're not doing it because like we think it's a good song.
Well, that's different. This isn't like a group
I love it.
It is it's a fun song, but like I'm the one singing the high notes. You know what I mean? Like, we're not really doing it justice here. I'm doing the Olivia Dukakis part. And the only reason I do that is because of Parks and Rec when Leslie Knope had to do karaoke with like an adversary, and it's a guy, and she's like, I guess I'll be Olivia. He's like, no way, I'm Olivia. I do the high notes. And I'm just like, that's me. That's what I want to be. Do the high notes.
Did you say Olympia Dukakis?
No, Olivia.
Oh, okay.
Did I say Olympia Dukakis? I don't think I did. I know the name, but I have no idea what I.
Okay, well, whatever. It doesn't matter. I mean, I love musicals. I love Grease, which is probably why I also love Grease too. So like, but I feel like the general attitude is kind of like when people play the Time Warp, people roll their eyes. It's like it's so overplayed at that point because everybody knows it's kind of that stature.
Oh, Time Warp is only overplayed in Halloween
or at like lame parties.
I don't think I've ever been to a single party where they played that song.
Not even when you were like in high school?
No. I'm sorry. I went to a high school where the kids were cool.
Did you go to Rydell High?
Yeah. I was in the student body.
The important
and I
thing,
was technically a jock because I was in a sports team. So
I guess that makes you a jock, right? Yeah. Technically. Yeah.
It does.
So when Grease came out, it like broke records. Like it was the highest grossing musical film at its time. It was such a best-selling album. It got nominated for Academy Awards, really for the songs and stuff. And it's like in the National Registry and it's preserved there in the Library of Congress and stuff. And they've been talking about sequels and prequels and TV shows since Grease 2 came out. And when Grease 2 did terribly, they put it on the shelf.
Right.
But yeah, like Grease takes place in 1958 and it came out in 1978. So it was 20 years after. And the purpose of the original film Grease was this like nostalgic look back at 20 years ago, like the 50s, because 70s was all very nostalgic for 50s.
Yeah, that's usually how it goes. Like it's usually 20 years because the way it goes, right? Like the people who graduated college are reminiscing of their times in high school by the time they have like the executive power to make these decisions. So it's like usually the 20-year apart.
Yeah, it does usually go that way.
Yeah, that's why like aren't we like obsessed with like the 90s at the moment?
Well, 90s was more than 20 years ago though.
Are we? Oh, maybe we're obsessed with the aughts.
I think we're slowly realizing the aughts is kind of like
what about the aughts are we obsessing about?
Like Britney Spears, NSYNC, that kind of shit right now.
Serious? I think we're just obsessed with Britney Spears because of Britney Spears, not because of her
we should not be obsessed with Britney Spears.
Should we even be obsessed with the early aughts? Like that was not a good time.
What was wrong with the early aughts?
Just there's like fashion wise, it wasn't that great. Like maybe music wise, sure, but.
9/11 was the early aughts, but you know what? That gave us a police state that we live in now. And God bless America, you know?
God bless America, indeed. So 20 years before, and they were like, let's make a film that's nostalgic about the era we grew up in, but now that the code has been lifted and we can portray sex in films, let's just make a film about sex and teenagers in high school.
And call it hormones.
Grease. Yes. And so it's about a local boy, Danny Zuko, and he's part of the T-Birds at Rydell High. And vacationing Australian Sandy Olsen, for some reason, now starts attending that school. And she's like, oh, hey, Danny. We're like, let's pick up our romance.
Honestly, I've seen this movie so many times, and even rewatching it. She's from Australia? Where did this little tidbit come from?
I know. I guess she just could not like she couldn't do an American accent. So they were like, okay, you're Australian.
That's so funny.
Why not? And yeah, he's like, I don't know you because I only know these T-Birds and the girl group, the Pink Ladies. And the Pink Ladies in the original Grease movie are way cooler than the T-Birds. I think.
I thought you were saying than the TV show. I'm just like, whoa.
No. So the T-Birds, the T-Birds consist of Danny Zuko, who's kind of like their leader, and Kaneki, and then there's Duty, Sunny, and Putsy, who are just the Three Stooges, essentially.
Oh, yeah, no. I mean, the T-Birds suck. Obviously, the Pink Ladies are kind of terrible, too, though. So.
Well, the Pink Ladies are kind of mean girls.
Yeah, they are mean girls.
Yeah.
Specifically Rizzo.
Betty Rizzo, who's their, like, leader. There's Frenchie, who, you know, wants to be the beauty school dropout, who's actually a friend to Sandy and wants Sandy to be part of the Pink Ladies. There's Jan, who's kind of the comic relief, silly one. And then there's Marty, who's really just obsessed with getting some dick. Yeah.
Like, who isn't?
Yeah. But, like, everyone wants to pair off with one of the T-Birds, and Marty's like, no, I'm going to try and hook up with Johnny Fontaine at the party and stuff. So, anyway, this movie's just about their sexcapades. That's really it. The older you get, you're like, wow, this movie's just about sex. And
which
so
is
Grease
funny.
too.
You should mention, because as we're watching the remake, the revival, I think Eddie's good thing was like, wow, like this is really about sex. I'm just like, Eddie, so was Grease. Like Grease was all about sex. Like truly.
Wholesome.
Yeah. I mean, Summer Nights is all about them both lying. Like he's pretty much saying all we did was a fuck, and she's like, "Oh, it was so great, we fell in love." You know,
wait,
the difference between
you
men
think
and
that
women.
she was lying though?
No, I think she was telling the truth. He was lying.
Yeah, I think that's how the song is absolutely played. That she, they didn't fuck, but
Yeah, we made out under the doubt or whatever. And she's like, we stayed up until 10 o'clock. It's like perfect.
Mhm.
So, yeah, I mean, do you like Grease? You don't like musicals, but do you like Grease?
I don't say like is a strong word. I don't dislike it. Do you know what I mean?
You're indifferent?
I've seen it several times.
Yeah.
Where it plays on TV like regularly, so sometimes it'll just be on. I'll just like, all right, I'll just leave it on and just have it on in the background. My favorite song is "Beauty School Dropout." I think.
Okay, yeah, I mean it's a good song. Yeah,
I feel like it's such a mean song.
Oh, because it's so like mocking Frenchie.
Yeah, like poor girl.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I don't know. That's really it. I hate the song "Grease Lightning."
Yeah, it's fine. I love Danny Zuko as a character, so I actually realized that I really like John Travolta as an actor, and I think this comic sequences that revolve around Danny Zuko playing sports and Grease actually really work. They really work for me. I find them quite funny. I just think he like embodies like that, stupid teenage boy who's so cocky and yet doesn't know how to throw a fucking baseball or play basketball.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that the dance scene is wonderful. I think it's put together well. I think it's like really fun to watch. I love Cha-Cha Di Gregorio, the best dancer at St. Bernadette with the worst reputation. I mean, I'm all about it. And they actually referenced St. Bernadette in Rise of the Big Ladies.
Yes, they did.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think it's fun. Like I said, I think Grease 2 is just as good, maybe even better. And they actually make a lot of references to Grease 2 in this new one, which is... So we can't talk about Grease 2 because you didn't watch it.
I'd never seen Grease 2, nor was I aware it was going to be part of our homework.
Yeah, well, because actually the Pink Ladies Pledge is from Grease 2.
Oh, that's why I didn't know. That's why. Yeah, that's why when you asked.
Yeah,
I was like, I don't know what.
Well, when I saw the trailer for the Rise of the Pink Ladies, they said they began it with the Pink Ladies Pledge. I'm like, they're referencing Grease 2. So good.
Wow.
So yeah.
Do you think Grease 2 must have like this really underground like cult of love?
It's a cult movie. It's 100% a cult movie.
Yeah. And it has like.
They've had like 40th anniversary screenings and everything.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
The only star I know from it is Michelle Pfeiffer.
Yeah, and she like has completely disassociated herself.
Oh yeah, no, I can imagine.
Which is a shame though, because people like genuinely love it. Like Drew Barrymore is actually a huge fan. I found out recently of Grease 2.
Tracks with her personality for some reason. Like
it kind of does, right? Yeah.
Like if she said that. If you gave me like a list of celebrity names and she's on it, and that was like the fact that I had to connect to her, I'd be like, that's Drew Barrymore.
That is Drew Barrymore, yeah. And Michelle Pfeiffer just embodies cool in Grease too. She's just the coolest. When I was younger, I thought she was the coolest girl ever.
Did you think she was the hottest girl ever?
Yeah, I thought she was really attractive.
Yeah. You know when she looked hottest? In the movie with Harrison Ford about the dead. What
Lies Beneath?
Yes. She looked all crazy. She was going crazy.
She's being gaslighted.
Yeah, exactly. It would be so good. I hope they remake that.
Huh. I wonder, is that a remake of Gaslight? I wonder. I've never seen What Lies Beneath. So
You've never seen What Lies Beneath? You've never seen the iconic moments where Michelle Pfeiffer is riding Harrison Ford, and then she's like, I think she knows. And he's like, who? And then she goes in, but like her face changes, and she's like, your wife.
No, I've never seen. Send it to me.
I got
They
mocked it in Scary Movie 2 also.
That must be one of the references I don't get then. Actually, the thing about Grease 2 is that Frenchie comes back. I don't know why they decided to put poor Frenchie, I guess, flunked out of beauty school and had to go back to Rydell.
That's poor Frenchie indeed.
I know, they really just shit all over Frenchie in this show. I mean, in these two movies.
Mm-hmm.
But, we're really here to talk about this new show, Rise of the Pink Ladies, which has been in development for a long time.
It has been. So we talked about a prequel that they were working on for Grease some time ago. It was supposed to be a focus on the summer that the song Summer Lovin' is based off of. in which it was going to be
I remember
Zuko
that, yeah.
and Sandy's like, you know, relationship like that summer. And I think because if you listen to some of our early episodes, it's there. And our reaction was just like, what? Why would we need a whole movie or a TV show about this? Yeah. And I guess it got reformulated. I think the creators listened and they were like, you know what? They're right. We don't need a whole story about Sandy and Zuko's summer. So they gave us this show instead, The Rise of the Pink Ladies, which is absolutely fitting because I think I have pink eye at the moment. So what a week for me, guys.
An honor. Wow, you're so like in with the theme of the week. I love it. I mean, Rise of the Pink Ladies. It's on Paramount Plus currently. New episodes starting April 6th. We're towards the end of April here, but they release every Thursday. So I think only 4 episodes as we've recorded have been up. Yes. I was only able to watch 2.
Same.
But I think I got a pretty good idea of this show from it. And pretty much it takes place in 1954, 4 years before Greece. And we're in Rydell High, and we are being identified with 4 students who are responsible for creating the gang Pink Ladies. And these students are Jane, Olivia, Cynthia, and Nancy.
Mm-hmm.
Jane is a new student from like last year, I think. She's kind of new to the area.
She's new. She transferred halfway through the previous year.
Yeah.
And she was known as Jane the Brain.
Jane the Brain, yeah. She wears glasses, so she's an outcast.
And also half Puerto
50s.
Rican.
Half Puerto Rican and then Italian, so Jane Facciano.
Yeah.
Her younger sister is Frenchie, which they reveal.
Right. That was what a twist. We got to see young Frenchie and young Rizzo.
Yeah, so the actress who played Frenchie, chef's kiss.
Oh, I thought the actress who played Rizzo was a chef's kiss also.
Yeah, so the one on Rizzo, I'm kind of like torn about because I'm like, you're not really embodying Stockard Channing, but at the same time, this is 4 years ago, Rizzo.
Right.
And I kind of feel like, okay, I could see the evolution from that to that. You know what I mean?
I thought so too. Yeah, but I would agree with you. Frenchie was another chef's kiss for this. Like, super. Yeah. Also, I don't know if it's a smart choice, but I will respect it, where they gave us just to tease a Frenchie without making this a Frenchie prequel.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, we're focusing on the Pink Ladies, and we can now understand why Frenchie would become a Pink Lady, right?
Exactly.
Like, her sister started it, which is like, makes sense.
Uh-huh. And of course, Frenchie has been in every single Grease like product yet, so we had to have Frenchie in it, or else it would have been jinxed. There's Olivia, who is a Latina, and she has a brother. What's his name? Richie. Mm-hmm. And the two of them, and he's a T-Bird, and she's a total outcast. And there are rumors going around that she slept with a teacher. And she saw Marilyn Monroe movie at the beginning of the school year at the drive-in where the first scene takes place. So she's walking around like she is the shit. And she's letting Marilyn just embody her. And she's like, fuck you, assholes. I am my own woman, kind of a thing.
Mm-hmm.
And she's got great energy. It makes me question whether or not a character like this would have ever existed in 1954. But...
well, there's many characters here who would not
many
exist.
questions, yeah. So, and I'm gonna give my whole feelings on the show after I talk about the last 2 characters. There is Cynthia, who is essentially androgynous, and she wants so badly to be part of the T-Birds.
Didn't she remind you of that character from West Side Story?
Yeah, anybody.
Yeah, that's it. I kept calling her Rizzo, like in the episode.
That's funny.
When we recorded West Side Story.
No, absolutely. She's like, oh my gosh, she's the anybody, which is also like, yeah, women like this absolutely existed. It existed in West Side Story, so here it is in fucking Grease.
Mm-hmm.
And because she realizes that the T-Birds will never accept her, just like the Jets will never accept anybody, she's like, well, fuck you. And she becomes part of the Pink Ladies. And then there's Nancy. And Nancy is a fashion student who had 2 best friends, but they kind of ditched her for their boyfriends. And she's like, boys suck, boys are gross. We kind of know where this is going.
I wasn't sure, but like I do love Nancy's character.
Yes.
I do love her fashion and like her I don't know. She seems so like one-track minded, but it's like I liked it. I like the portrayal.
It could be. Well, that's the thing. Nancy's so far the least developed character.
Yes, and I want more of her, which is funny.
Yeah. Yeah. No, she's adorable every time she pops up. Like when Jane is like, oh, whatever. She's like complaining and she's like, I don't care.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also like the perfect like come back down to reality. Like, nobody cares about this stuff. Why do you care so much about it? When I don't care, nobody else cares.
Right.
Even though in high school they do, and they like to make fun of you about it. So those are our main characters. And of course, the T-Birds in this film, there's Richie, and then there's, I think, like Wally, there's Gil, whatever. There's a couple of different ones. I don't really know their names.
You really remember their names? Okay.
I'm kind of guessing here, but they're just as silly as the T-Birds from the past two films, which is great. The T-Birds are always kind of like a joke, and that's what I always appreciate. Okay. These are my thoughts on Rise of the Pink Ladies. I'm just going to say it out now. Okay.
Go for it.
It kind of just came to me. Just like Grease was nostalgic for an era long gone, but then also wanted to look at it differently. Hey, let's look at 1950s culture, but let's sexualize the shit out of it.
Mm-hmm.
Rise of the Pink Ladies is nostalgic for a film that we all love and grew up on, but now we are going to make it more accessible to everybody because, let's say it, the original Grease movies are white as fuck.
Oh, yeah, 1,000,000% white as fuck.
They're white as fuck and they're heteronormative as fuck. And for someone like us who watched these films growing up, it was like, okay, well, love it, but am I there in any way? I remember thinking maybe Jan, but then Jan was with Putsy.
Mm-hmm.
So that was kind of like my take on this film, where it was like, you know what? As opposed to my beef with A League of Their Own, which was presenting like historical accuracy and like was telling stories of people who actually existed, I feel like this is more fantasy. I mean, at the end of Grease, they ride off into the fucking sun, right?
Right. I mean, yeah. I mean, this is clearly fantasy. Like, they break off into song and number, and it's not like these imaginary moments in these characters' heads. These are happening canonically in the actual episodes. You kept calling them movies, a film.
These episodes, or am I?
You kept calling them film, but I'm just saying, which I want to get to that a little bit. But yeah, the song and dance numbers are actually they're not like machinations in someone's heads. Yeah, so I forgot where I was going with that. The only thing I wanted to point out. It is fantasy. Yeah, but to your point, you kept calling this a film and stuff. It's obviously it's a TV show. But I actually do think that's where maybe they made the mistake here. I think this should have been a movie. I actually would have been okay with this just being like a movie. I don't know if I need a series of this.
Okay.
Because I actually do like the plot. And I actually think I like this plot more than I like the Grease plot, to be quite honest.
Well, what the hell is the plot in Grease?
Exactly.
There is no plot. It's literally just the sexcapades of these teenagers, which is fine. I don't know.
It's also it's a will they won't they Sandy and Danny story.
Yeah.
Really, what it comes down to.
Well, now let's go back to Grease really quick. Do you think that Sandy completely changed who she was just for some man, or do you think she let a man motivate her to become the fierce bitch she just didn't know she was?
I mean, everyone always says that she changed for him. Mm-hmm. Right? Because we see her like getting the leather and we see her smoking the cigarette. But we also see her put out the cigarette and really resort back to so all she did was just change her outfit. This is Emperor's in new clothes. She didn't actually putting out the cigarette, because they do a close-up of that, is much more important than her actually taking the drag, in my opinion. Because she tried it out. She's like, oh no, this is not for me. She puts it out and he still wants her after she puts it out. You know what I mean?
So the cigarette embodies the transformation?
I think the cigarette embodies kind of that badassery that she rejects. Okay. But she can still dress sexy. And I think that's okay.
I think there's nothing wrong with physically transforming yourself. I get that it was for Danny, but I also think that she benefited from it and that she's only going to grow. And I also think that after they ride off to the sky, she's probably going to dump his ass.
But they forget. But he also changed for her. He was dressed like a goober.
Yeah, he was like, I'll go varsity jock for you. Yeah,
it was very much the gift of the Magi there.
Yeah. And Danny didn't deserve it. He ditched her for Cha-Cha.
Oh no, Danny was the absolute worst.
He's the ultimate fuckboy teenager. He's so stupid, which is also why I love him as a character, because he's the most realistic teenage boy, one of the most in a movie. He's just such a shithead.
Yes. Much like some of the boys in the TV show.
Yeah, I really felt like Richie was going for Danny Zuko vibes, which I appreciated, because I was like, yeah, I want all the Danny Zuko vibes. But actually probably way more intelligent than Danny Zuko. And funnier and kind of cuter. Because John Travolta's got a weird face. I love him, but he's got a weird face.
I mean, he was already like 50 years old when they did Grease, wasn't he?
He was much older, yeah. Well, that was the thing in the 70s, right? 40-year-olds play teenagers.
Yeah. This young guy who plays Richie, Jonathan Nieves. He shares my surname. Nice. But he's cute and stuff. I don't know why these women are throwing themselves for this character, Buddy.
Yeah, because he's popular and he's white, and like back then, that was kind of everything that we were told to love. It is.
I guess that's all it takes. But I guess let me give you guys a little bit of the plot here because as we just said, like, what was the plot for Grease? I don't know. One of them gets pregnant. That's and they do ride off into the night sky together, or was it daylight? I think it was daylight.
It was daylight, yeah, just the clouds.
But it was basically the will they won't they storyline between Sandy and Danny. Mm-hmm. Whereas this is a story focusing on Jane, who almost goes all the way with her boyfriend, gets caught by a jealous popular girl, basically, right? It's like one of the good girls who sees her and then spreads the rumor. And as we know, rumors spread like wildfire. So the first day of school, like, everyone's just calling her a slut behind her back, and she's trying to regain control of her reputation. She fails because Buddy lies to his friends and tells them that they went all the way, much like Danny Zuko did. And as a result, she is, she's like she wears that scarlet letter, and she decides, now fuck this, I'm going to take ownership of this at the very least and try to win control. And so as a result, she's running for office, trying to represent like the outcasts of the school, because the school is run by the popular people, the pretty people, the jocks, and she's showing that no, there's also a population of people who don't fit in and want to be represented. And I actually thought, okay, I get this storyline, I love it. I don't know if I need a TV show of it. All right, this is a 10 episode engagement. I don't know if I could deal with 10 episodes of this kind of storyline, to be quite honest.
I do agree. I think there's like over 30 songs that they wrote for this, which is really impressive. But after a while, I don't know, they just all they weren't able to be like differentiated to my ear.
I mean, like, there were some good songs.
There were some good songs. I just, like, I agree though too. Like, I was like, wow, a musical TV show. In theory, I love it. In this practice, I don't know, it's not working for me. I think the story works better than the music.
I would agree. I think the story works significantly better than the music. And actually, I think I said that to you, Eddie, right? Like, I was just like, oh, I would love this show so much more if they just cut out the musical numbers.
No, I said that to you. I said, oh, I think I can just fast forward the musical numbers and just get to the story.
Which is a shame because the musical numbers weren't bad. Like,
they weren't bad. I just feel like I didn't need them.
That's just what I felt. Yeah. And I know it's a Grease TV show, so it's just like, obviously you need music. But I think also the problem was that the music felt too contemporary.
It did, yeah.
And that kind of just throws me out of like the 70s of it.
Well, this is another piece where it's like a piece
or 50s. What year? 60s?
It takes place in 1954, and yet everyone's talking like it's 2023, and the music sounds very, like, the way they sing, the music composition, kind of a throwback, but more so sounds like something you'd hear on the radio today.
Right.
And I don't know. I kind of am like, do we need people to talk like we do in order for us to connect to something that's like set in like a period piece? Like, it makes me question why so many pieces are doing this.
I don't know. I mean, isn't that like a stylistic choice sometimes? I'm not saying that that's what they was here.
Yeah. It makes me think of, again, A League of Their Own, because they like were using words that they just, and were vernaculars they weren't speaking in the 40s. And I don't know, was that a stylistic choice? I don't think so. I think it was an accessibility choice, because they felt like they wanted to make things more accessible. But I'm like, are people undermining like audiences? Like, would audiences really be turned off if there wasn't a vernacular they could resonate with? Like, has the TikTok era really made us feel that way?
I don't know. I mean, I feel like more and more audiences are stupid.
Okay, so yeah, TikTok has kind of done its damage.
I don't want to blame TikTok. I'm blaming an older audience here.
Okay, why?
because they're the ones who are most resistant to change. And the problem is, like, if right now what they're getting, if what they're seeing is a lot of contemporary stuff, contemporary content, if you do a period piece, I don't know, maybe they're afraid of if it's too authentic. I don't know. I'm blaming the older people because this is not, I don't know. I wouldn't say this is geared towards the TikTok audience. This would definitely be geared more so towards, I think, an older audience, in my opinion.
Well, yeah, but also like making it more accessible. I feel like it's also like, hey, kids, this is for everybody. It's not just for your parents. Grease isn't just for your parents anymore. And that's the thing, like the fact that HBO is once again going to reboot Harry Potter and whatever company is going to do Twilight, like all of these places that have these streaming services are probably desperate for people to be watching and like getting subscriptions to their services. So they have to rely on their good old IPs that they know will come through. But it's like Grease is so interesting because, yeah, like everyone knows Grease and everyone likes Grease. But was this really made for the Grease fan base, or was this made? I feel like this was kind of made for a younger fan base.
Yeah,
like I kind of feel like you never had to have seen Grease in order to get this.
I kept wondering, like, who the hell is this for? Because I don't know. I didn't need a Grease prequel.
Yeah. So Grease 2 was enough for me. So
I've never even seen it. So how could I say? But yeah, I don't know. I don't know what's the point of dumbing down the thing. But I don't know. Maybe it's just like, how important is the vernacular to the film?
Well, so that's the thing. When I watch
the TV show,
I'm like, oh wow, my 18-year-old cousin would really like this, right? Mm-hmm. But do I think, I don't know, my mother would like this? Do I think my uncle would like this? Who's like very old school and stuff, doesn't even know how to like work a cell phone kind of guy.
Right.
So I'm like, okay, would he like the new Grease, or would he look at it and be like, this is too contemporary? I don't recognize anything that I know and love about Grease. Because then it makes me think about older people who are more kind of curmudgeon-y in what they expect from this kind of content.
I see what you mean. Yeah.
Like it kind of comes off as too woke in that respect.
Well,
for at least that demographic.
Right. I think you're right. Yeah, I don't know. Because here's the other thing, right? It's Paramount TV. Like, I don't know. Paramount TV's like target audience is basically Star Trek and
Paramount
Drag
Plus
Race.
Is like Drag Race for sure. I associate
and Star
with
Trek
it.
lovers, yeah. Like those really, like, what else Paramount Plus for, right? They have a stronghold on these IP, and I think they're trying to put. It's like, oh, but look at this. I mean, okay, how about this? Does this new Grease? Do you think it would appeal to the Drag Race audience? I know it won't appeal to the Star Trek audience. Would it appeal to the Drag Race audience?
It could appear to. I think Star Trek audiences are pretty diverse in their tastes, but I do think that this could appeal to Drag Race lovers. I do, honestly.
I would say more so than Star Trek, in my opinion. Eddie, you love both. Which one does it speak more to? Your Star Trek side or your Drag Race side?
No, I think Drag Race. I think it's the whole idea of like recognizing how we can be marginalized as others, especially in these heteronormative constructs like high school, especially high school in that time period, and just being different. Like, I could just remember the first generation, I can just imagine the first generation of Puerto Ricans in the late 40s and 50s who came over from the island and now are living in the main states and trying to assimilate into society. And there's that point where the mother of the main character says, when she don't speak Spanish, we're not in New York anymore. And just kind of recognizing there's been like, like growing up and stuff, like there was this, kind of like you had to focus on, speaking English, making sure, you're taming your accent to fit in.
Which I liked about the show, right? Because we mentioned that, right? Like, this is a much more diverse cast that it's not based in reality. It's a little fantastical how diverse this cast and group of popular people would be. However, it's not colorblind though. it still addresses some of the realities of the times. And I was like, great. That's sometimes all I need. Just acknowledgement that like, oh no, we're aware this is absolutely fantastical. That's fine. That will suffice. Because I think sometimes when shows do the diverse thing and it's colorblind, it feels inauthentic. At least if you could bring me some of that like a little bit of reality here, I'm usually happy. And I was very happy when, especially considering this is a show. I mean, let's be real. This is a show that has 2 lead Latinas, basically.
Yeah, 2 of the coolest characters for sure.
So I was thinking about this too, and it kind of all depends on like where you think about the demographics, like the number of people of color in a certain area going to school and stuff like that, right? So you say like there may not be that many of this particular like this ethnic group or this race there, but then I was thinking before decades ago, who was telling the stories?
Exactly.
Who was showing us who was showing us how things looked back then? Mm-hmm. So you could totally have whitewashed the entire high school class and made it look nice and pristine and very white.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like,
I know what you mean, Papa. But hold on. So in other words, you miss out the stories that are in the background, the stories that are in the fringes. Stories about those that were people of color who had struggled in their high school because they were not accepted. My mother used to tell me horror stories on how she was treated in high school because she was Puerto Rican.
Yep.
So, these people don't get to know who is telling their story.
Absolutely.
Of them when they were in the, in that time period in the 60s and 70s and being in high school during that time.
Yeah, Westerns are always told from the perspective of the white man who came to tame the land. What about the people who already lived there and who were being slaughtered, And, you reminded me of a great scene that happened in episode 2 when Jane is practicing her speech on the T-Birds. Mm-hmm. She's like, how did it go? She addresses the fact that Buddy's a liar and that not only did Buddy lie to me, but he lied to all of you. And they're like, seems shrill.
Yeah.
Right.
I feel like I was being yelled at.
Yeah. She sounds jealous.
She sounds jealous. Yeah. And another scene where all the kids are getting yelled at by their parents, and Olivia's like, Danny was out too, and they're like, boys will be boys.
Yes,
exactly.
That one. That one quite resonated because
like to piggyback off of Eddie, who was telling these stories? It was also white men who never gave a shit about women's perspective and who looked at women in a certain way. And now we're finally seeing, this is how it was for women not that long ago.
Yeah, and just to that point, in terms of some of the writers here for this show, like I see a lot of female writers, but I also do see some Latina writers also, which is great. Like, to your points here, like this isn't a story being told by just exclusively white men.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Which is good. My favorite part actually from episode 2 was when Jane was going to call out Buddy, because like Buddy had wrote her a letter admitting that he slept with one of the popular girls. But she realized it's just like, I can't do that because all I'm doing is slut shaming this girl, and he still wins. And it's just like what a tightrope for women to walk, right?
Yeah,
like, you know what I mean? Like there's just no winning really. So yeah, it's a shame. I actually like this storyline, and I'm like, oh, I really wish it wasn't a TV show. I really wish this was just maybe like a 2-hour movie with a few musical numbers in and out,
and not released to theaters. Just put on Paramount Plus.
That's fine. You can keep this. Yeah, that's fine. I mean, I think the film, the quality of the production value of this show is, I think,
cinematic. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a nice looking show. My favorite number actually might be the mothers calling the principal. That might be like one of my favorite numbers.
Nice. Okay.
In the show so far. So I'm not giving up on the show. I don't think.
I would watch more. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I might be like, hey, let's watch it, or hey, you should watch this. I would recommend to someone. I would
definitely say check it out.
Yeah. I was gonna ask which gang of pink ladies would you guys want to be a member of, but I kind of feel like I know the answer.
Oh, do you? Who do you think I would want to be a member of?
I don't know if you'd want to. I mean, based on your opinion on Rizzo, I don't think you'd want to be in her Pink Ladies gang.
Yeah, no, it's the original Pink Ladies, the OGs.
Yeah, the OGs. Yeah.
Plus, they have a little diversity, which
oh yeah, well, they're the only diverse one. I mean, yeah. I think I would get along great with Cynthia, who's adorable. She's probably my favorite character. And even though I would want to be part of the Grease 2 Pink Ladies, but they
don't count for this.
That's the thing about the original Grease and Grease 2 is that they're not the best of friends to one another. Now, maybe this is very true to teenagers and teenage relationships, but they kind of betray each other's trusts a lot.
I feel like that's really common in just girl world.
Yeah, I mean, well, yeah, if we're going to put the label of catty and all that stuff on women, I mean, it sucks because so far these girls are actually proving to be very understanding and sweet of each other. But then I'm like, well, I had really terrible, like, people had to realize how to treat each other in high school. So that's when you treat people like shit, right? Well,
Nicole, there's 10 episodes. So I promise you by 7 and 8, they're going to be at each other's throats and then resolve everything by episode 10, as usually goes down in these shows, you know?
The only other thing that I wanted to say was that there's a scene in the original Grease when they're like in the hallways and then Principal McGee comes out and like tells, she pretty much like yells at Sonny and Sonny's like, no, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. And he has his head down and he doesn't talk back. He's like this big, like, hey, I'm a T-bird. I'm so cool. Look at me. I'm not in class. But then when he gets confronted by the teacher, he's like putting his head down in shame.
Right.
But everyone in this show like talks back.
Yeah.
In a way that I was like, I wish some of them would actually have like that cute little dichotomy to them where it's like they talk big and all this, but when like they're actually still a teenager.
They're talking back to McGee, who's not the principal yet.
Yeah, but she's still a figure of somewhat authority.
But is she? Yes, she is. But I also think that's kind of I'm curious to see what they're going to do with her character because I think that's what they're trying to build up her authority also.
Yeah, because I guess nobody and she's a woman, so why should anyone respect her?
And and this is ultimately a female empowerment story that we're watching. Period. End of story. Sure. So it would make sense that you would have, if you could, let's see if the show decides to like go that route. I don't know yet. I haven't seen the rest of the full 10 episodes. Paramount Plus. You're more than welcome to send it to us so we could give fair and accurate reviews. But yeah. I'm really curious to see what they do, but that's my guess is that she too is going to go through a trajectory of like getting her control of the school.
Yeah,
and she's constantly being like ignored, like walked all over by the principal.
Yeah, well, when she realized she had been had by Cynthia and she like looked around, I was like, I'm rooting for you to get your revenge. So I hope that happens.
Yeah.
All right, cool. So overall, did this need
surprised.
To be made? But did it need to be made? In terms of Grease,
you know what? Maybe that's what I'm going to leave on to. Like maybe, like I kind of
make Grease more accessible in this way.
Yeah, because I don't know if I need like a remake of Grease.
They didn't remake it. I mean? Yeah, we're telling a brand new story, and like having it take place 4 years before the events of Grease means that all these kids from Grease are either in 8th grade right now or freshmen. Yep.
So like
forming friendships.
Yeah. Then they're not important right now to the storyline, but we know that they're there. And technically they could show up at any moment, except for Sandy. But Danny Zuko might show up.
Oh man, I can't wait for Danny Zuko.
And that's probably gonna be episode 10 when like he gets transferred and he's like, "I'm here, guys." Hey, that's a Fonzie, but whatever, same character.
Who? Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I kind of was like, I might hate this, and I didn't, and that's always a win for me. So
yeah, I mean, that's exactly how I went into this. I'm just like, this is gonna suck so much. I'm just like, oh, I'm shocked at how much I'm kind of liking this.
Yeah, but have you guys seen it? Do you have any thoughts? Did you think Grease needed to be more accessible like we did, and are you happy with the product? You should reach out to us, and the ways you should reach out to us are by emailing us, remakesrebootsrevivals@gmail.com. Hit us up on social media, on Instagram @RemakesRebootsRevivals, on Twitter @RemakesPodcast. You can find us on Facebook and YouTube by searching Remakes, Reboots, Revivals. And if you are listening on a podcasting platform, please give us a rating. And if you're available to, can you leave a little review? We'd love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm actually gonna cut it here, guys. Until next time.
Stay unoriginal.